This is the Tackle HD podcast for early May, and we've got fishing reports for Lake of the Ozarks with Jack Uxa, Truman Lake with Dave McCormick, and Table Rock with Matt Fielder. Plus, Matt Fielder jumps in for an interview to talk all about what's going on right now at Table Rock and to discuss the explosion of bass fishing as a college sport. This is the Tackle HD podcast. Let's get right to it with Jack Uxa and a look at Lake of the Ozarks.
Hey everybody, it's Jack Uxa with the Lake of the Ozarks Fishing Report. It's March the 60th. It's still been pretty cold here lately. It's supposed to be May, but we've had a lot of fronts and water level's been going up and down. Water temperature has been going up and down. We got the Major League Fishing guys in town right now, which is pretty cool. We haven't had these caliber of fishermen since the 90s here, so it's pretty nice to see them fishing. And a lot of the fish are trying to spawn. A lot of the beds have been, made by the bass and then, vacated. Unfortunately, the water level has been dropping a little bit. We've been having a lot of storms lately, and so Ameren's concerned about flooding, so they will drop the lake quite a bit, and it makes things difficult, and my job difficult, and can't wait for some more stable weather and stable water conditions. Bass are still trying to spawn. Certain pockets of the lake are doing pretty well. If you get around the Shawnee Bend, get away from the boat ramps, you'll do pretty decent around there. The water's pretty clear. That is one good thing. Even with all the rain we've been having, it's been mostly rain and not too many storms. Except for lately, we've had some storms. But since we did this last report, things have changed a tremendous amount as far as what they're liking. In the recent past, it was all about jerk baits, crankbaits, covering ground. Now we've seen a big step back to where it's mostly soft plastics, shaky heads, and various, like I've got one of the Tackle HD stealth jig heads here. That thing's been awesome. That's a 5/16 ounce. They've got one that's lighter. They've got one or two that's heavier. That 5/16 is awesome. I love that thing. The hook that they got on that, it's a 604 Gamakatsu or something like that. That is awesome. Make sure you get some of those. It's a really versatile jig head. You can put a variety of soft plastics on it, like this little beaver. Dark colors. I've been throwing a lot of dark colors too lately. And this is one of their speed bugs. And they've also got a T-crawl that has been catching a lot of fish. The T-crawl has even more action than their speed bug. And man, they've been liking it. Fishing a lot of your deeper banks. Don't fish pea gravel right now. Pea gravel has been pretty hard. I don't know if maybe the fish are just getting beaten up out there already, or for whatever reason they've left the pea gravel banks. They're on the steeper banks. There are some fish on the bluffs. That's been kind of hard to fish, but there are some fish out there right now. The majority of our spawn is going to be once May, comes around and things start warming up. The long range forecast is pretty good, but man, we've been dealing with this for a while now, where there's up and down weather, and I'm ready for some shorts, and I'm ready for stop wearing layers, and water temperature dipped back down to about 57, so it's not terribly cold out there, but several of my customers have been cold lately, and just ready for some decent weather. It'll be just around the corner. Traditionally, we have a good spawn throughout the entire month of May. It's nothing for us to be catching spawning fish in Memorial Day weekend, and I expect that'll hold true again this year. Looking forward to the summer months. June is probably my favorite single month to fish Lake of the Ozarks for bass. July is good. August is good also. But obviously you got a lot of boat traffic when you're talking about a lake as popular as Lake of the Ozarks is. We'll have a lot of boat traffic. But main thing looking forward here in the next couple of weeks, if you're getting out there, is soft plastics. This is the time of year where we won't see nearly as many big bags of fish, and those 20-pound plus bags are going to be less and less common. but you will see a lot more people just catching fish and having fun eventually once these fish lock onto the beds and they start getting some little baby bass fry out there. That'll be pretty good. So keep your eyes open, look for beds, look for spawning type fish. Be stealthy with your approach and get yourself a good handful of, this is the shaky head, this is the needleworm, 8-inch, that's been good. I throw those on about an 1/8 ounce head, and then a variety of little plastics because they like some flap right now. This is the time of year where they don't want, just a few weeks ago or a month ago, we were throwing things that were just had kind of more of a dull action, and now they like some flap. So I don't know, that's about it from Lake of the Ozarks. Hopefully we'll talk to you guys again in a couple weeks, and it'll a lot of things will be different by then. So good luck fishing.
Now for a look at Table Rock Lake, here's Matt Fielder.
Hey guys, this is Matt Fielder with MJF Guide Service and Modern Outdoor Tackle. This is your first week in May fishing report for Table Rock Lake presented by Tackle HD. The lake level is 916.61. We're getting a lot of rain, so that lake is going to be rising. We have a BFL, there's a high school tournament this week here on Table Rock, and that lake is going to, start rising up. Water flowing in the backs of creeks, so be looking for that this weekend. You may see some stains start to come in. I saw it this morning on the trip. A lot of heavy rain. So let's get into it. The fish are in full spawn right now. I mean, they're on beds, so you're going to be fishing shallow this week. You can get out there and throw this Tackle HD high def crawl on their head. It's a great little bed fishing tool. You just pitch it up there, shake it a little bit. These pinchers are going to get up in the air, and they should just start swimming off with it. I mean, you can cast it out and blind fish with it. Try to, cast at those light spots and drag that along the bottom, and you'll just see your line take off. Another great technique for that is throwing a floating worm. So we'll have some bushes in the water. You'll just throw out there at those light spots, or even if you don't see light spots, this floating worm is a great technique. Just throw it out there, let it sink a little bit. I mean, sometimes you can catch them, just right under the surface there. You just throw it out, slowly reel it back in, let that bait kind of just swim back at you. It's a really good way to catch a lot of bass right now since they're so shallow. Another way you can catch those same fish is on a swim bait, either a Tackle HD swimmer. This is a Divine swim bait. You just put it on a little swim bait head, about a 1/4 ounce or an 1/8 ounce. Since they're so shallow, you just throw it out, count it down, and just drag it across their head, and they should bite it, swim off with it. If you get into some stained water, you can get on and throw the Trophy Bass Company spinner bait, the Ozark Flash to be exact, and or you can pick up a pulsator spinner bait. This is a coleslaw color, and it's been working really good for me, especially in the stained water. I did catch a few today in clear water on the spinner bait, so that is something to keep in mind, but there was running water coming in, so keep that in mind while you're out there. Bushes are getting flooded, so just throw it around the bushes and you'll catch some bass that way. Another good thing to do is we got some Tackle HD shaky heads here paired up with your favorite worm. You can even pair it up with a trick worm like this. Throw it out. You can bed fish with this. You can go out on secondary points because some of these fish are spawning on those secondary points. So just throw it out and just slowly drag it back to you. You'll catch some on a trick worm, a Magnum trick worm, any of your favorite soft plastic worm, you'll be able to catch them. Another way to get I've seen some quality bites lately, has been on a topwater. I talked to a guy this morning on my trip, and he caught a 7-pounder yesterday throwing a topwater. I've been catching some on this Demiki Rambler, backs of creeks, or if you see, bass busting up some shad, you can catch them throwing a topwater right now. It's a good way to get a big bite. And say you have a limit and you just need that one kicker fish. Cover some water with a glide bait. It's a great way to get a big bite and maybe cull out all of your fish. Or if you're just out there fun fishing and you want to just catch big ones, this is a great way to catch them. We have numerous amounts of different types of glide baits here at the shop. This one right here is a Golden Belt Custom, and come in and check them out, and we'll be able to help you out. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.
More from Matt in just a couple of minutes, but first, the latest from Truman Lake with Fish 30's Dave McCormick.
Well, I see we're back now. Every 2 weeks we're going to do this. It's a Truman Lake Fishing Report. My name's Dave. I'm a content producer on YouTube, Fish 30. Check me out, 106 different tournament videos. So we spent 2 days filming on Truman, the Average Joe 2-day tournament. We had 28 and some change. I think we came in 5th place. Caught over 100 bass. And I'm going to tell you this, Truman is in, as of before this last rainfall, Truman had only rose about a foot and a half. Water just started to get in the base of the bushes. The water clarity was beautiful in most of the arms. It was a little iffy in the Osage, but still the fish were biting. So we caught over 100 bass in 2 days. So they have started spawning. They moved their way back into the pockets, nooks, pockets, all. I encourage you to fish all the way into the back of the creeks too. They tend to start spawning in the very, very, very back first because that's the warmest water. So we all actually saw fish with a bloody tail, first one. So we know there's some males up there trying to beat the beds, and the females are somewhere in between. I'm going to tell you, we struggled catching females. It's just how it is. They scatter off, and I guess the guys who won the tournament found them. We didn't have a fish over about 3.5 pounds on the weekend, but we did have over 100. So it was great fishing. We saw guys catch crappie on the bank, from the bank with a bobber and a jig. That really means, and I could see the crappie, the males were real dark in color, so it's on. The spawn's on. So we did something and we had some bites. First ones of the year on top water. So it was a popper style bait. Worked slowly in the back of the creeks around laydowns. Anything that's not vertical, that's horizontal, you need to pay really close attention to. I'm going to tell you, there's a whole myriad of things that are working, from little straight tail worms to beavers or any kind of bug, tube, creature bait, all that Texas rig style stuff. And I tend to throw I honestly tend to throw a little jig through that whole process, and I'll tell you why. The largemouth bass gets pestered all through his spawn by the green-eared sunfish. They're enemies, actually. And I really believe that if a bass thinks a little baby green-eared sunfish is in its nest, it will react and eat it, or at least defend the nest and put it in its mouth. So, and what I like about it not being Texas rigged is that it doesn't require a lot of hook set to get the hook driven into the fish's mouth. I know it doesn't throw as good into some certain things like bushes and that kind of stuff. So depending on the application, if you're really tight into the cover, and especially if it's got green leaves on it, you need to be Texas rigged. We've had a lot of wind, incredible amount of wind this year. So when it was been real windy there at Truman, we finally have another bait that's really getting it going. This one is called the Ozark Flash. It's a popular one in the Ozark region. We love it. The blade combination being both painted and metal, really get it done, both painted and metal on each blade. So that's how it's going. I don't think you can go wrong anywhere on Truman Lake right now. It's about as good as it's gonna be. It truly is. That's when the spawn's on both the bass and the crappie, you can go out and catch and harvest fish. I mean, the crappies are quite easy. Truman has a lot of them, and this would be the time to fish for them. The bass, they're spawning. Sometimes it's hard to make them bite when you can see them, so keep that in mind when you're pitching to what you think is a nesting fish or a nesting area. You really have to work the bait slow. So use your patience there. Pass that on to your children too. Take a kid fishing. This is the time of year to do it, especially with the crappie fishing. Just a jig and a bobber, and you drop it right off the rocks, and donk, there you go. Instant success. That's what kids need to really enjoy the fishing. They need to catch a few. So take a kid fishing, enjoy it. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
So I know that you went to high school. That's kind of a St. Louis thing. Where'd you go to high school? I know you went to high
Yep.
school up here in the St. Louis area where I'm at.
Yep.
I guess you are from St. Louis
Yeah,
originally?
I'm from St. Louis, born and raised there. Went to DeSmet High School. Um, Had a good time there, and a lot of people probably wouldn't think somebody from DeSmet would be fishing for a living, and here we are. So
Yeah.
it's
Well,
kind of cool.
I went to St. Mary's, which is a 20-minute drive from
Yeah.
DeSmet in the St. Louis area, and two guys from my graduating class are now professional guides at the Ozarks. One of them, Jack Uxa, and another guy
Yeah.
named Mike Scott. So a lot of St. Louis guys are
Oh yeah.
making a go of it. What were you doing in the St. Louis area as far as fishing goes? Back in your high school days, where in the St. Louis area were you getting your fishing in?
Yeah. So I have a family, like our farm. So we have a farm pond. My farm's on the Gasconade River. So
Okay.
I did a lot of, that's kind of how I kind of grew up, kind of fishing, spinning rod, fishing the farm pond.
Yeah.
Back in the day, my farm pond used to be loaded with giants. And that's what kind of got me hooked on bass fishing. My dad, he would take me like crappie fishing, go to like Mark Twain or Real Foot Lake or something like that. And yeah, crappie fishing is a good time, but bass are just bigger. They fight harder. And so it got me hooked. And then, around St. Louis, we'd go to like Bush Wildlife, fish all those ponds, neighborhood ponds. My neighborhood where I'm from, it's on a golf course, and we have some ponds in there, and then there's some ponds that are like in the woods around the golf course. We'd go jump into those, and I'm trying to think. DePere Park, they've got a lake there, so we just kind of Google or look up places to go fish or find parks or whatever. It didn't really matter. I mean, neighborhood ponds. So I did a lot of that. Me and my best friend, we created the bass fishing club at DeSmet, and so we did that and would have like outings and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I got my start in fishing, and then came down here and got into it. And
was it college that took you down that way?
Yeah, for sure. I originally went to Drury because I talked to some people. When I talked to them, they said that they had a bass fishing team at the time. Well, they didn't actually have a bass fishing team when I went there, and they said, "Oh, you can start it." Well, when I tried that, like nobody, like people were interested, but I showed up a couple times for people like we're going to go fishing, and they signed up or whatever, and then it'd be like 5 a.m. or 6 or whatever, and I'd wait there for a couple hours, and nobody'd show up, so I would just go by myself and no problem. And then after a while, I was like, okay, I guess we're not going to really do this. And my best friend was, kind of starting. He's like, hey, I'm going to start the bass team at Missouri State, and so I kind of helped him, and he had a buddy there that helped him, and so I helped both of those guys. And they fished out a tournament out of my boat, the first ever real team of Missouri State bass fishing out of my boat, and so I went and practiced with them, and so it was really cool. And so then I said, okay, I'm going to go there and get started. But let me tell you, it's a lot of work and a lot of time, and fishing's a humbling sport even to this day. Like it just gets you. But like to fish your first ever tournament, college tournament, get second, and I think the next one I got 156. I was like, oh boy, you're not very good. So after that, it was just like you had to learn a lot, and here we are.
So. Yeah. So around what year was this when you were getting things going at Missouri State?
2013.
Okay.
2013, 14. Yep.
Gotcha. Because I saw some tournament pictures of you fishing on that team that were dated 2014. So
yep.
It's interesting. The college bass fishing circuit, whatever you want to call it, is really blown up over the last 10 years. I was doing a little research on it because I knew it existed, but I didn't know much about it. And according to Wikipedia, there are now over 600 colleges that have teams out there, and I'm sure the level of involvement is kind of all over the place with them. But 600 universities have teams out there on record, and they say that historically the most successful college bass fishing teams are Auburn University, Murray State, Bethel University, University of Florida, Virginia Tech, University of Georgia, North Carolina State University, Louisiana State University, and University of Illinois. Do you remember competing against some of those powerhouse teams, or
Oh yeah.
were you guys only competing against, the nearby schools? How's it work?
No. So what's crazy about college fishing is, that's different than all the other sports is it's one like conglomeration. Like everybody competes against anybody. So it's like you have all these traditional like D1 schools or, whatever. And, there could be a D3 school, there could be a junior college, a community college. It doesn't matter. You fish in the association. So it's ACA, BASS, and Major League Fishing. When I was there, it was FLW when I fished in college. But those are the three circuits that you fish. Each of them has their own championship that you kind of have to qualify for. And so, I was lucky enough to get to fish all of them. So that was
it's really
cool.
just there are no divisions. It's just whoever's able to show up at this lake with a boat. And
yes and no. So because there are so many teams now, they have made like Central Division or Southeast or Southwest, North, Northeast. But it's not like in the general sense of like, the Cardinals can't play the, Boston Red Sox or something.
Gotcha.
Like they play them once a year. That's not the case. Like some like ACA, they have like a circuit and then you just show up to that circuit.
I got you.
But like there are divisions like an MLF and BASS, like they have regional deals just kind of to cut down on the boats a little bit. And normally you fish in your region for the most part, but it's like, say there's a Bassmaster Central or whatever, and you'll go in there and you'll fish that one, but you could end up at Lake Norman or, Pickwick or wherever. So you kind of go anywhere that they put the tournament. So
Gotcha.
There are some like divisional things, but it's not like traditional, college sports like an SEC or anything.
Right.
It's just one.
How involved are the schools? And I'm sure it varies quite a bit, but I mean, being that they were telling you like, yeah, go ahead and start one, it makes me think that the schools aren't funding these things. Am I right with that?
Yeah. So it also like that really depends on the school themselves. Some are really involved. Like some of the schools that you just mentioned, like they're involved, like McKendree University, they're involved. Drury here in Springfield, they do have a team, and now their school is involved.
Now, of course, now they do.
Yeah, like literally as I was leaving, they decided like, oh, yay. And then it's like, seriously, but it's okay. I'm fine. I'm really, really glad and blessed how life turned out. And we got to move on. But Bethel, they give out scholarships and stuff like that. So
that was my next question. If there was scholarship money, so school to school.
Some schools do give out scholarship money. Some schools don't. Some schools have like a scholarship that may be a sponsor of the team, like outside of the school. So like a sponsor could have like a scholarship fund. Like at Missouri State, we have the guys created a scholarship fund, like you come to the tournaments and like fundraiser tournaments, and there'll be a scholarship fund that people can donate to, stuff like that. The school, I mean, I hate to say it, but they don't do anything really for us. I mean, they give us a small amount in the grand scheme of things. Like somebody say, like, I remember at one point we did get like $5,000, but if you talk about fishing for a
With boats.
team
Yeah.
with boats
Right.
and travel
Mhm.
and housing for 20 plus people, $5,000 doesn't do anything. I mean,
Yeah, it's probably 2 tournaments, 3 tournaments.
it just doesn't
Mhm.
for all these people, and so that part kind of stinks. But at the same time, like you at the collegiate level, I mean,
Mhm.
you're kind of doing it for the love of the sport and
Right.
getting to compete. And I mean, heck, you fish against some really stout people. I mean, I look on TV every day and see the guys I competed against, either fishing MLF or Bassmaster, it doesn't matter.
Right.
There are some really, really good anglers, and even guys that decide, hey, like maybe I'm not going to go there, or they may not like try to the fullest extent.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean they're bad. Like they just went a different route in life. And you'll see a lot of these guys that are on the Bassmaster Open trails or the Toyota series or your local BFLs. A lot of these guys came out of college and they're just tearing it up on those, like, AAA or AA, whatever you want to call it, level.
Mhm.
So
Gotcha.
they're still doing really well. And some guys just didn't want to. I mean, it costs a lot of money to fish, and now that it's my living, like I see it, and that's one of the reasons why I don't travel as much anymore fishing. And with the shop and everything, I'm not using it as like an excuse. It's a real blessing. I get to stay home, do the shop, helps out with tackle and all that stuff, and I get to guide, and so I get to live a really comfortable life and not have to travel everywhere. I do love traveling, so I do miss that a lot, but the given pressure of going to a lake, few hundred miles away, get 2 or 3 days of practice, and then okay, if you could lose out on everything that you spent to get here. So a lot of people don't realize that about the guys that are fishing at that level. Like it costs an arm and a leg, so you got to be prepared.
So one more question about that college level circuit.
Mhm.
What would, team winnings be? Would it be money that would then go just into your program's bank account to fund further travel and stuff like that, or what?
Yeah. So the money gets technically written out to the university,
Okay.
and then it's supposed to go back to the team.
Uh-huh.
And it's really sad, but I've heard it, more than once that schools have actually taken the money, and that's just really wrong.
Yeah.
Luckily for us, we got it back. And the cool thing is, depending on how your program is, so like for us, since we were basically funded ourselves, like angler funded,
Right.
we would get reimbursed. Like, so say we won a tournament or, whatever, got second, whenever we cut a check, we would get reimbursed, for our, cost of going
Sure.
out there.
Your
And,
gas, your hotel.
yeah. Yeah. So we would get reimbursed for that. And whatever was kind of left over, went to the team, or we'd split it 50-50. I mean, just kind of, and I don't know how every single team operates
Yeah.
because I haven't been in every single program. So I don't want to speak out of line for each program.
Right.
So that's kind of,
I
where it's at. I mean, I know some schools fully fund their team. So
Gotcha.
whatever that money goes, that's kind of their decision. But for us, when I was at Missouri State, it got, sent to the school. The school would have to give us the check, and then the check would
Gotcha.
come to us. So
So for anybody watching that is of age, that you're selecting a college and looking into, something with a fishing program,
mhm.
or for your children, I think some questions to ask just popped up. Just kind of find out, how is this funded? Where are winnings going? And you can probably get a pretty good idea of how, the school's going to treat that program. So very interesting stuff. You're the
Yeah,
first person I've ever got to chat with about that topic. So thank you for that.
yeah,
I did want to switch topics a little bit and talk about you being a professional guide. And one of the things that I saw on your site that was interesting was that you are a Coast Guard licensed captain.
yeah.
Is that something that in the state of Missouri you have to have if you're going to be a professional guide?
Technically, no, but yes. So
Okay.
it's kind of complicated. So the
Okay.
state of Missouri does not require you to be a U.S. Coast Guard captain,
Okay.
but like Table Rock is a highland reservoir, and you're required to have a captain's license on Table Rock, Bull Shoals, a lot of
Okay.
these big lakes. So we have a motor like Taneycomo, like all of these lakes around here. It's required by the Coast Guard. So, but if you call the state of Missouri and ask them,
They don't know
hey, do
anything
you have,
about it.
do you have to have a captain's license? They say, nope, you don't have to have a captain's license. You can be a guide without a captain's license.
Okay.
So it's kind of one of those situations where it's like,
Maybe better off just get it.
yeah. So that's,
So nobody can say anything.
and yeah, so I just, kind of talked to a few other guys around here, and they said, yeah, it's kind of required. And
Okay.
okay, so I just went ahead and took it. I took the Mariners learning system.
Yeah. What is it? How do you get it?
So I basically looked online, found the Mariners learning system. They sent me some books, and then along with those books, there's like online tests that you have to do. And then you have to pass all these tests, and then you have to take their test online. And then once you pass their test,
Mm-hmm.
there are testing dates. Like you have to go in and take the test.
Oh, you've got to sit for it in person.
Yeah, then you have to go for an in-person test,
Gotcha.
and then you pass it, and you get your license that way.
How long is it good?
Forever.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay. So you've got it. You
Yeah.
run MJF Guide Service down, based out of your home. Is this a one-man operation, just you?
Yes and no. So yes, it's mainly me, but I have a buddy that does help me out. Brian, he's awesome, and he helps, promote the business, and so he helps me out kind of on weekends, or if I'm really, really booked. But he's mostly a weekend. I mainly do it myself, and I don't know. I just feel like it's like a more personal,
Yeah.
occupation, and having somebody I trust also is kind of a big deal for me, and that's why.
Oh yeah, because it's your name on it.
It's my name. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
my name's on it, and like I know he's, when somebody goes out with Brian, they're going to get a great experience.
Yeah.
Just like they would with me, and he's going to do the best he possibly can, have fun, and put you on fish, and that's what we strive to do every day. And guiding isn't the easiest thing in the world. I mean, everybody
sure.
expects you to go out and catch 100, 200 fish every day, and let me tell you, that's pretty hard to do every day. I mean,
are there certain times of the year where you get that alert on your phone or your email that somebody just booked online, and you're like, oh no, this is the worst possible week to try and catch fish out on Table Rock?
Yeah, so Table Rock is a different beast.
I'm sure every guide has the same thing. There are months where it's like, I will take you, but I mean, know that 4 months from now, it'll be a completely different story.
Oh, absolutely. Like the month of October, for people listening, like I'd love to take you fishing in October, but if you could pick a month, like October's probably not the one.
There you go.
For whatever reason, like some days, like it's really weird. Like there are some days in October that I absolutely like crush them, but for the most part, October is a struggle. Like,
Confidence is a little shaky for October. Everybody listening, Table Rock, October, maybe pick somewhere else.
yeah, Table Rock in October is pretty tough.
Yeah.
No, like there are days like even now, like that are like, come on, fish, like what are you doing? And what's crazy is we have, threadfin shad and our bass eat them and they like wander a lot. And so like you could be smashing them and like one day and then the next day, like they're just gone. And like, so you have to kind of like stay with them.
Those bass are just relocating around the lake depending on where those shad are.
Yeah, kind of like on the East Coast. I mean, for people out there, I mean, this is nationwide. So it's I kind of think it's like a blueback herring deal, but I think our bass kind of sometimes move maybe a little bit more than blueback herring. Sometimes I'm being a little biased here, but that's the best. Like that's the best way I can describe it. It's almost like a blueback bite, like they just move. But right now they're in the spawn, and we're late. We're late on the spawn, and it's just been. I mean, I'm catching a lot of fish right now, but we just had the OMTT this past weekend, and it took 22 pounds to win. So that was pretty good. 7-pounder got weighed in the first, in first place. So congrats to Aaron Hodge and James Bailey on that. So
when people reach out to you for a guided trip, is it typically they're wanting to go bass fishing, largemouth bass fishing? Yeah.
So I, put on my website, like it's literally Table Rock Lake Bass Fishing Guide.com. And I'm a bass fisherman. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not a crappie fisherman at all. I'm not a snagger of the spoonbill. I don't do that. I will in the summer go walleye fishing. And I'll take people walleye fishing on Table Rock, but I'm basically bass fishing, but for the walleye. I mean, so we'll kind of do a little combo trip, but I only really tell people that I can catch the walleye in the summer. I mean, you can catch them all year long, but like, I mean, in the summer, it's pretty easy in my opinion. So I will like say, okay, we can go walleye fishing if you really want to. And we'll do a combo trip, walleye, bass. But
you ever mess with catfish?
Only when they bite, but not directly guiding for catfish.
Gotcha.
We do a little bit of trout fishing on Taneycomo, guide trout on Taneycomo. But mostly I'm a bass fishing guide on Table Rock, Norfolk. So if anybody, is not familiar with Norfolk, it's a good fishery. And, if you never heard of it or want to get away from a little bit of the pressure of, Table Rock or Lake of the Ozarks or anything like that, like there's Mountain Home right there that's got food and there's some hotels there. So it's a little, it's a lot less pressured than, say Table Rock or Lake of the Ozarks. And it's the size there as far as quality of bass isn't as good, but you can catch a lot of bass there, and I have a lot of fun there. So
interesting. Norfolk,
yep.
Awesome. Well, Matt, for several months now, you've been our Table Rock fishing report guy. So it's clear that Table Rock like the back of your hand. What are some things to people who aren't so familiar with Table Rock that you could say that makes that lake, that fishery unique?
I kind of touched on it a little bit. Our bass roam after these shad, and it seems like
So maybe it's more difficult for the bass fishermen there.
yes and no. Like I, I don't know. I get to fish it a lot, so it makes you scratch your head a lot. It's like, wait a second, I caught 100 yesterday, and today I'm struggling. Like what is going on? So it seems like our fish, they move a lot. Um, we have a really good population of all three species: largemouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass.
Okay.
And so we have a lot of all three species. It'd probably help if we had a few less spots because they're super aggressive, and I feel like it hurts a little bit on quality, a tiny bit on um, the other two, but the largemouth and smallmouth, like maybe eat a little bit of the food that could go to them and take up some of that habitat that the other fish are normally in. But it's a really fun fishery. And you can catch all three species, and that's something that a lot of places don't have. That's really unique to Table Rock. And like, it's not like, so like, say Lake of the Ozarks. I know for the people that are watching the Major League Fishing, from what I'm about to say, like, oh, I saw a guy catch a 3-pound spot today on Lake of the Ozarks. Well, you come to Table Rock, and no, it's not like your Coosa River's spotted bass. It's not like your California spotted bass, but our length limit on Table Rock is 15 inches. So if you go to like Lake of the Ozarks, for example, you do catch a lot of like pretty short spotted bass because there the length limit is 12 inches, just like at Norfolk's 12 inches, Bull Shoals 12 inches, and ours is 15. And so I don't know if that'd make a difference if we change it to 12. I don't know about that. But it's really deep and super clear lake. Like I was out, kind of by the dam this week and last week. And I mean, I'm not kidding. Like I could see 15 feet to the bottom, looking at smallmouth on beds and 15 foot of water. Now, granted, at the moment when I saw them in 15 foot of water, it was dead slick calm, and I had some sunlight, and obviously, good sunglasses. You can look down and see them, but you really had to look for them. So, and that's another thing. Like everybody comes to Table Rock, and probably shouldn't, put this out there, but the bass, the big ones, some of them spawn real shallow, but nah, they spawn further out than your typical, like right on the bank. Now these guys are in 8, 10, 14 foot of water. Like
Interesting.
So, I mean, you can basically blind bedfish, out there. I mean, you may not be successful, but at the same time, that's a way to catch a real big one. So
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest or strangest things that you've seen caught at Table Rock? Either you personally or, guided trips you were on?
Strangest thing. Besides like fishing poles and all that, are you talking about
anything?
fish or
Anything.
car hood?
Car hood?
Car hood. Somebody caught a striper the other day, which we don't have striper in Table Rock. Well, I guess we do. Somebody caught one.
There's one, yeah. We know of.
I've never seen striper, and most of the people I've ever talked to claim that they've never had striper. So there's striper. Some people catch some big trout on Table Rock. I've actually never caught a trout on Table Rock, and I fish there a lot. So
rainbow.
Yeah, rainbow trout. Yep. But I've never caught one. But we do have them. I just have never ran into them, and they're normally pretty good ones too. I mean, they're not little when you do catch one. So,
with your wealth of knowledge on Table Rock, how big do you think the biggest largemouth bass currently swimming in that lake is?
This is a tough one. I have this conversation with a lot of people. I mean, biggest one in Table Rock. I'm
Yeah.
going to
You
say
said it was
probably,
the 7-something that won that tournament the other day.
yeah.
That's probably not the biggest fish in the lake.
No,
They
no,
didn't happen to catch the biggest fish that day.
no,
What do you
no,
think?
for sure. Uh, I hate to say it, but probably like an 11. I mean, I know that's a good one, but like when you think about how big Table Rock is and how much water there is, I mean, I would have thought, in my years of bass fishing there now, I haven't been on the lake for 30 years, like some of these other guys. But in the previous years, like, 20, 30 years ago, there was giants in Table Rock. And we had a big fish kill, and it hasn't been the same as far as size since then. We've lost some cover. Some of the trees have rotted away, so we've lost some of that, and I think that's hurt our
And
size.
that's probably trees that have been there since this lake was made back in the 50s.
Oh, yeah, before the lake was even there.
Right.
Like, they just
The
flooded.
stuff that was just there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and so that stuff was just out there, and they just flooded it, and so we do have a lot of timber. So, like, I mean, you can run basically anywhere you want to. I mean, there's some bars that you can't run across, some big rock you definitely don't want to run across, and there are standing timber. So if you see standing timber coming out, don't run there because there's obviously standing timber, but you can basically run that lake pretty well, and it's super deep. So a lot of these big trees don't come to the surface. They're underwater 20, 30 feet, 50, 100, like you can just run right over the top of them, but
so Matt, we are right now at the very beginning of May.
Yeah.
First week of May. What are your top 3-4 baits that you're throwing at Table Rock right now in early May?
Unfortunately, a wacky rig.
So a wacky worm?
A wacky worm. Yeah. Some type of wacky.
I love it. I love the wacky worm. It's so easy. It's low maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's slow for me, but I like to move a little bit.
Yeah.
Glide bait is coming into effect right now. I mean, really, like a glide bait. I know I talked about it like a few weeks ago on the fishing report because it started to get a few bites, but the weather didn't cooperate. We're way behind on the spawn. They are spawning right now. Like, they're in the spawn. So, anything bed fishing, a Ned rig, a floating worm, a wacky rig, if you want to throw a tube, a wobblehead, something like that, something you're dragging on the bottom, kind of going over those beds is probably a good thing right now. Obviously, a swim bait's it's Table Rock. You always want to have a swim bait tied on. And right now, guys, like you can get into throwing a topwater. I mean, I didn't catch one on Saturday. We threw it a little bit in the OMTT. Didn't get any blow ups. But I would say, something like wacky rig or tube, some type of soft plastic floating right now. It's probably one of the best baits you can throw right now.
Okay. Another topic I wanted to hit on a little bit is just that when you are not guiding, you are working in a tackle shop, modern outdoor tackle. I believe you've got the logo right there on your hat. Tell everybody a little bit about that, where it's located, what you guys, what your specialty is, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I manage Modern Outdoor Tackle. We're in Nixa, Missouri, 694 West Mount Vernon, to be exact. And we're kind of, I don't know if boutique is the right word for it, but we're not a giant tackle shop, but the stuff that we have, inside is stuff that you won't see in a lot of places. Yeah, we do have some stuff like you can go get, at any other tackle shop, but we have a giant megabass selection. We have a lot of custom glide baits. We have products from outside of our region that are popular in other areas of the country that we carry. That's one cool thing that I think, with me being able to travel the country and go fishing, whether it was on my own tournament circuit or fishing in college, that I got to do is experience different regions tackle and then bring those back to Table Rock and use them. And so that's something that we have that I think other tackle shops don't have. And that's kind of our niche. We're kind of like a niche tackle shop.
Absolutely.
And, I think our customer service is top notch, and we can provide valuable information. I mean, a lot of our people fish our lakes, and what's better than having a guy that gets to fish there all the time?
Right.
Will help you out. And
somebody walks in that store, you're there to get them all squared away.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have, really good guys that work there too. But they can come in and get some knowledge or, book a trip with me and go out, and then they can come back with what we used on a trip and, pick it up at the shop. And I think it's really unique because, you can come on a trip with me. Well, everything I have comes from the shop. So you know exactly where you can get that.
Right.
Some people will have to go somewhere else, but I think that's a really unique thing that we offer.
Yeah.
And I think for the size of the shop, I think it packs a punch. So I think it's awesome. It's a really, really good shop, good people. Wes, he's the owner, Weston Yancey, and he's an awesome friend of mine, and he's done a lot for me. And, he kind of lets me do my thing there, and we get in some cool baits, and it's awesome. We get to work with, Mega Bass. West built their website, so we kind of get to work with them a little bit. So that's really cool. And
modern outdoor tackle. So anybody that's going to be fishing Table Rock or any down that way, you're in Nixa, Missouri. Modern outdoor tackle. Of course, you guys do carry Tackle HD, which greatly appreciated. Thank you for that. On the retail side of things, is there anything that you've noticed over, say, the last 3, 4, 5 years, kind of emerging trends, stuff that really wasn't a big player, for a shop like yours 5 years ago, that now it's what everybody's asking for?
So I can't personally say from the modern outdoor tackle side because we're only a year and 5 months in at this point.
Oh, I didn't know you were that
We're
new.
that new. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we're that new, but obviously being a fishing guide,
right,
and being a tackle junkie, the mag draft, huge. These glide baits exploded. Like, it's nuts. These glide baits are insane, and people just love them. And don't get me wrong, they catch them. They're an amazing bait to have tied on. But that's what's blown up. Swim baits. So whether it be a soft swim bait, there's really nice custom soft swim baits. I know we've always had swim baits. For a long, long time, we've had swim baits. But the mag draft is like, we do online sales, and like every day we send out like 30 to 40 mag drafts. Like it's crazy. And people, get on, and we sell a lot of custom, glide baits like Golden Belt Customs. We sell paperweights, by Fish Everything. Like, we just got a shipment of those in, and a lot of people don't know that yet. So you're the first to hear it right here. So we're getting ready to ship them off to get them painted. And, they'll be sold out in like 10 minutes, if that, maybe 10 minutes. But that's what's crazy. That is the trend right now. Some type of swim bait.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And the other thing is the ice jigs for us. I mean, we're offshore here. So, like, the baits that people generally go out up north when they're ice fishing, like a Rapala jig and wrap, huge here. Like we catch bass on them. And the flat jig, catch bass on them. So I would say those baits over the last couple of years have become like one of those things like that has really taken off.
Gotcha.
In the tackle world.
I'll tell you, you mentioned Wacky Rig earlier. It's something you highly suggested people throw right now because it's being so successful. And that has been the big player for me this year. And also another thing that I never threw, but the Tackle HD guys set me up with, a bunch of product, and there was some packs of leeches.
Yeah, I was
there. The black Tackle HD leech, I have caught more fish on in the last 2 months than anything else I've thrown. Put it on a little jig, a little crappie jig, and bounce it around. It's insane. Like, I can't not take it with me because that's outperforming everything I'm throwing.
Yeah. So I was actually, when you were talking about some Tackle HD, those little leeches, like if you flip it around, even on a wacky, like you can wacky rig that leech.
Really? So just, what would you do? Just
put it right
through the middle, sideways, and hook it right in the middle. Because I always nose hook it.
It's a flat little bait, and you can just kind of like put it right through the middle of it. You can nose rig it.
That's what I've always been doing, but I'll try and wacky rig it.
Yeah, so you can wacky rig that. You can nose hook it, like for people that we drop shot a lot here. That leech is a really good drop shot bait.
I've been told to try that by other people too.
Yeah, and another good Tackle HD bait right now that people should probably pick up, and you can come get them in the shop, or the Tackle HD high def crawls. They're actually in the background of this. Yep, right there.
There we go.
And they get paired up with a little jig head. It's got a little weed guard on it. It's a double weed guard, and you just pair it up, pitch that in that bed, and the crawls are sitting there just right in that bass's face, and they'll just pick it up and go with it. So it's a really good way to catch some bed fish right now. Pick up some leeches and maybe try it. It's something that I really haven't seen anywhere else besides from Tackle HD. And then the high def crawls are a really good option, especially when you pair them with their actual head that they go with.
Yeah. And we got those on the website. Yeah. It's perfect.
Yeah. So I feel like they work better with the head they're designed to go with.
Right.
I have been in a pinch where I've been out of them and haven't, had to rig them on something else. And it doesn't seem like they sit the correct way. There's something about that head design and like the length of the shank of the hook that sets them up right. And there's multiple different, weights that you want to fish in those baits right there. So you pick your color, brown, green pumpkin. I mean, honestly, I haven't really noticed a difference between the green pumpkin or the brown head when I've been fishing, but it is, there are people that really believe in that. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying what I've experienced. So,
yeah. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation, Matt. So for anybody wanting to get out on the water, you guide at Table Rock, but you kind of do any of the lakes down there. You do Lake of the Ozarks, Taneycomo. So what is your guide service website?
It's Table Rock Lake BassFishingGuide.com. I know it's a long name, but
there you go. We'll put
that's what it is. Yeah, Table Rock Lake BassFishingGuide.com. Okay. You can find me on Instagram, MJF Guide Service, Facebook, same thing. You can email me. It's mfielder9@gmail.com to book a trip. If you're in Nixa and you want to go on a trip, even if I'm not there, you can hop in and say, hey, I want to go on a trip with Matt, and they'll get you hooked up. They'll get in contact with me, or they'll give you one of my business cards, and you can shoot me a text, a phone call, an email, whatever whatever you'd like. But I think you guys should come check out the shop. If you're ever passing through on your way to Table Rock, you definitely need to come to Modern Outdoor Tackle. I think you'll be pretty happy with, with the selection we have. So
Absolutely. And what's that address again?
694 West Mount Vernon Street, Nixon, Missouri 65714.
Gotcha. Well, Matt, thank you so much, and appreciate
Thank you, Jeff.
all of your the fishing reports you've been giving us for the show. They're always fantastic, packed with great information and entertaining. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on, and I appreciate it. And I had a really good time talking to you, and I hope you guys can make it down to the lake sometime.